How'd your film go after the Washington State game? What'd you see it like? What concerned you?
Thought we did a great job of being focused and being detailed on the defensive end the first 10, 11 minutes of that game. I was really pleased when the game could have unraveled at times. Offensively, we stuck with what we were trying to do offensively, and we were able to get good shots without calling a timeout, without calling anything specific, just able to read the defense and get good shots. Pleased with those things. In terms of team, really pleased with some individuals.
And what really concerned you after watching the film?
Defensive breakdown, defensive transition. Those are the main things.
What impressed you individually?
Obviously, Desmond Simmons. At different points in the game, a number of people. CJ getting 7 rebounds was impressive. Came out, hit some big shots in the first half. Aziz Njai with his putbacks in the second half when we really, really needed them. A couple baskets down low when we really needed them. Were vital. And then after not having a really good night, Scott Suggs down the stretch just hit some big shots for us, made some big plays. You know, he scored 6 points, but he also dove on the floor and got a ball and got it to Andrew for a dunk. That was a big play for us. Scott made some big plays down the stretch. At the end, Andrew knocking the free throws down, but early on, I thought Abdul Gaddy was really good in his decision-making and being aggressive. So, a number of people stood out.
Coach Bones said today that they decided to foul and put you into the bonus because you had been scoring so efficiently the last 4 minutes. So is that any different than what you had been seeing this season as far as sticking with the offense, even in kind of the mayhem of the end of the game there?
Yes. The UConn game, we didn't make shots, but it began to happen in that game. We were getting good looks out of the offense, just weren't knocking them down. But the second game in a row, we felt that we've been pretty efficient. There was, again, in the UConn game, the 13-minute mark to the 7-minute mark. In that game, golly, I forget if it was the second half, we weren't very good at all. We became unraveled. But aside from that, I thought we saw some of those same things we saw in the Wazoo game.
And so, is there a point when you'll know that the guys have gotten this high post offense down and it's just more efficient? I guess I heard you say some point in time that when they stop doing the pat thing and just go with it, that no
It's
more
kinda,
indicating.
We have more of that. I mean, we still have to know what we're in, so to speak. But again, I thought the Washington State game, we did that. I thought, we were 5 of 12 from the three-point line. We made 5 threes. We didn't make 10, 15. It wasn't this spectacular shooting night. It was just, I thought we were efficient offensively. When you go back and you look at our possessions, some of the shots we took were just really good shots. And I thought that was a result of us reading the defense and using our options.
You know, and it was before the season that you said around Pac-12 play is when they'll really start to get it. And it seems that the counters are working more. That it was the one Desmond to CJ down low for the dunk there. And
Yeah.
are they getting it more that way? That not
Yeah.
just the first play, but
Yeah, we're starting to see guys look one pass ahead and realize I'm gonna get a shot. You can see it coming. They're setting up because they know they're about to get one. They see the read on it. It's about to come open. And that's when you know we're starting to get it.
Coach Andrews, a young guy, but those 4 3 throws down the end, is that kind of a breakthrough? Is it a stepping stone for a young guy like that, or is that just Andrew?
I think that's just Andrew. I said on a radio show last night that in the last 2 years in excuse me, in practice, special situations, 10 seconds left on the clock, 30 seconds left on the clock, down one, tied. And Andrew's been in the situation, I'm telling you, he's been like 90% in 2 years of making the shot, making the free throws. He's been nails in practice, and this was the first time he was able to do it in a game.
What does that mean? I mean, what does that do for a guy like Andrew? I mean, nothing, or is?
Nothing. That's how he is. He doesn't see it any other way. Some aren't quite sure how they'll do in that situation. He kind of has an idea. He's one of those guys. He kind of has an idea it's going to work out for him. He has that type of confidence.
How does he compare to like a guy like a Justin Cobb? It seems like that could be his ceiling, or maybe it's not ceiling. Maybe it's just his mid-level and he goes after.
I told him last year, I thought when Justin Cobb was sitting out and was about to play, there was a guy, Cal, that there was some similarities, I thought, between the two of them. You know, a lot of people say Will Conroy because of his leadership, his aggressiveness, his toughness. So he's somewhere in the ballpark. In terms of style, who's better in the long run, time will tell. In terms of their approach, what they do, there's some similarities.
Why? Is it because they're herky-jerky, because they're tough, because they...
All of them are strong. All of them are tough-minded. They're all physical guards. And they're all pretty smart out there on the basketball field. And they really relish the big-time moments, the big stage. They're not intimidated by it.
What Aziz done this year on both ends, is that sort of the player that you thought you could develop into?
Aziz?
Recruiting?
Yes, yeah, he's done a nice job. Yeah, he's done a nice job. He's, man, close to being our most consistent player. You know, I don't know if he is, but he's somewhere around the top.
Is the kind of the offense and that little hook move that he's developed this year more, does that surprise you at all? Did you see that development coming offensively?
You know, over the last couple of years, Coach Fortier has worked with him, and he's worked hard. This summer with his wrist, he couldn't do a whole lot. Coach Shaw worked with him a lot of basketball, with his balance. You know, there's just been, along with him, no, let me back up. He works extremely hard, and because he's willing to work, some people have been able to come along and help him, and he's a sponge, and he's learned. Paid attention. Playing against Paris Blackwell this year in practice every day has made him really, he was already competitive, but even more so. I think all that's helped him. I think our offense has helped him. And, he knows exactly where he can get the ball at times. He's had to handle the ball more and hadn't done a bad job doing it. He hadn't been a big-time playmaker, but he's been functional with it. All that, I just think, has given him a better feel for how to play. Put all that stuff over the last 3 years in one pot, and you have an improved player. This is his third year playing here.
Cal, I think Cal's gone 2, I guess, the UCLA games, the second game, I really didn't even make a 3-point shot.
Sorry?
I think Cal went 2 games without even making a 3-point shot. Do you have a read on what kind of team this is compared to those other ones that they've had? Have they had those deep shooters for some reason?
I think, you know, we played 2 or 3 years against Jerome Randall, Patrick Christopher, Theo Robinson, who could all bomb it one year, but they may have led the country in 3-point field goal percentage. And, you know, this year they have, you know, the shooters, obviously Cobbs and Crab can really shoot it. But this year they probably depend more on those 2 guys than they have depended on any 2 guys in the past under Coach Montgomery.
What do you see from Crab from last year to this year? Anything exceptionally different?
Doesn't settle for the 3. That's the number one thing. He comes off curls and comes off screens attacking. He's not just, you know, the fact that Greg, you mentioned the 3-pointers. I mean, he's not just going out shooting 8, 9 3-pointers every game. He's coming at you, and I think it reflects in the statistics with him going to the foul line more. So I think that's what big difference with Allen.
He used to flare and drift a lot versus turning the corner to the lane or.
Yeah, you
or
could
the
see
lane.
his sophomore year, he began to try to attack the basket a little more, and he did. But this year, at times, he's like a slasher as opposed to just a shooter, which really complements his game because he's such a fine shooter from the outside. Now that he's going to the basket the way he is, it makes him even tougher to guard. And he is a little more durable now. He's stronger. You can see it. He's physically able to handle more contact. I know sometimes guys used to bump him and make a lot of contact with him. I watched him on film, watched him on television. He bounces right back up, plays through the contact now.
So then, after the job that Desmond did last week on Brock, do you then just say, Desmond, you just take this guy, or?
Totally
do you-
different players.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally different covers. Desmond was dialed in on guarding Brock, and it was a team effort. But Alan Crabb is an entirely different player than Brock Moore. So cover required different cover. So several will try to attempt to guard it.
Is it then better to put somebody a bit smaller on Crab, who is quicker and could run with them on the perimeter, as opposed to somebody that can beat them up a little bit?
Well, whomever it is that defends them, you have to be able to get through screens.
Yeah.
And get through screens in a way that when you get through, you square them up too. Because just getting through screens and trailing him, he's just gonna go to the basket. That's how he's developed his game. So you gotta be good enough to fight through screens and keep him in front of you.
If there is any carryover from last week, though, is it to the point that if you can slow down those two, like Washington State with Moden, then you pretty much have a really good chance of winning?
I think any team you play, just about, if there are a couple guys you can take out of the game and limit what their productivity, it's certainly going to help your cause. Anyone's like that. You know, Tim Floyd, who's at UTEP, used to be at USC, has made a living off of that. Every game they attempt to try to take the two top scorers out of the game, and they've been pretty successful over the years doing it. You know, but every team that Cal plays is thinking the same thing. Easier said than done.
Do you think going down, coming back, going down, coming back, are you irritated with that? Does it matter? What are the positive and benefits of that?
The number one positive is we don't miss very much school. We only miss one day of school. That's one positive. Well, that's even better than when it was Thursday, Saturday, because then you'd miss 2 days of school. If I have my choice, when you play the Wednesday, Saturday, and come back, we prefer it would be against Oregon, somebody a little closer, so it's not that long of a trip, although Cal Stanford is not too long of a trip. It would be really difficult. In fact, can't do it against the Arizona schools because it's too much travel. That's a long flight. But we're not the only ones that are going to have to do it. So as long as across the board everyone has to do it, that's the price we pay or the exchange we made for television. So we've all been willing to do it. We just have to make the adjustment.
How do you adjust practice schedules, and I noticed you're practicing on meeting tonight, those kind of things?
Typically, we usually, you know, today would be probably a much more strenuous and demanding practice, knowing that we had tomorrow before we played. You know, we could dial it back a little bit, but we've got to dial it back today as opposed to the next day.
And is it like football where you're not allowed to travel day games if you wanted to? 8 o'clock start, theoretically, you could leave them tomorrow morning.
Yeah, for us, it's not even an issue because I don't like doing that. I'd rather get there beforehand.
On Saturday, you only played 7 guys. Is that something that we can expect to see, or is
Now,
it
that was
just...
Brock Modem's fault. We felt Desmond was best suited to defend Brock Modem. And it wasn't just Desmond, it was our team, but we felt we had to keep Desmond in the game as much as we could. And if we're doing that, that means someone else is not playing as much. So we don't plan on doing that every game. Just with Brock Modem, we needed Desmond in there as much as he could be.
Coach, in the last 2 seasons, it seems like your squad has had this tendency to let these teams get back into these games, and you haven't had a consistent 40 minutes of play. Is it this year a lack of focus, or is it because you've only played, 7 guys and they're tired and they can't keep up that defensive intensity?
No, I wouldn't say. Early on, I would say that might have something to do with it. We had guys that weren't even able to suit up and play, but I don't think that. Just think we got to get better to try to help, try to ensure that not to happen.
Better on the defensive end, which then leaves...
Usually it's always the defensive end. Although Connecticut, it was more offensively, we just couldn't make a shot. But just got to weather that storm.
Anything else from here? One more quick question. Sean Kemp, that one dunk, when he finished,
Yeah.
flashbacks of his dad?
The first or the second one?
The one where he
Yeah,
just,
both with the left.
the one he finished, it was
You got
just so
style
strong.
points off of those. Yeah.
But that was the only thing he did really in that game. It was the only points he scored.
Mhm.
Any comments on Sean?
Sean is getting better. We said all along we miss Sean. And, he has a presence out there. What we need from Sean is from the rebound more. And when he starts to rebound more, then he's really gonna make his presence felt.
How is everyone's health?
Scott tweaked his knee a little bit yesterday, but aside from that, we're fine. He should be all right for the game.